What's up players, it's Chad from Let's Plays here and welcome to another episode of Can Reading Survive. And unfortunately I didn't record the first half pretty much of this Chelsea game, which is a bit annoying. Chelsea 1-0 up going into half time, Fernando Torres with, actually it was a pretty nice goal, so I am kind of peed off that I didn't record, but never mind, it doesn't matter. And yeah, so we have 3 games in all league matches in this episode. It's against Chelsea, Tottenham and West Brom, so ideally we were kind of looking for 2 draws and a win, like best case scenario, and we'll see how it plays out. As you can see, it's quite a longer episode, and that means there's plenty of goals in this episode as well. So it was actually a somewhat even game, but just there's really a lack of quality finishing. As you see, Alan Fondra there scoring, getting us back into the game, which makes it 2-1, and a little bit of hope that we can get a point from this game, which would be really vital. And Chelsea's previous 2 games were actually a draw and a loss, and they were doing really bad in the season. But there you go. So 2-1 with around about 20 minutes left to play. And unfortunately, I start just making all kinds of mistakes. They rip straight through us with their, extra pace, better passing ability. And that was really poor defending from me. And Lampard somehow hooks this back in, and it's a good goal. So within minutes of me actually scoring and putting it back to 1 goal behind, they go on to score again, which is pretty unfortunate for us, but never mind. So they make it 3-1, which is pretty bad, and then they go ahead and attack again, and they score again to make it 4-1, which pretty much puts the game out of sight, unfortunately. Now going back to the question that I asked in the last episode, which who do you want to see on the cover of FIFA 14? There were a lot of Ronaldos, there were a lot of Bales, there was a couple of Podolskis as well, actually, which is, I didn't really expect to see Podolski in there, even though he did score at the weekend, but the episode went out before. We do get a goal back to make it 4-2, but it's only a consolation this late in the game. There was a couple of Rooneys, there's quite a few Neymars actually, which was good. I am a fan of Neymar, although he's never really played well against England or Team GB both times, which is a shame. But yeah, they almost score again here, but luckily we managed to keep it out, which is nice. So, there was quite a few Bales in there. I believe I mentioned Bale, Suarez, Robin van Persie, Falcao's in there, and Royce and Neuer, for the different leagues and stuff. That game finished 4-2, and then we go against Spurs, and this was a pretty difficult team, and Spurs were pretty overpowered, I'm not going to lie. They were like, I don't know how Bale scored there, didn't score there, but that was well played to us. I really thought that was in, or at least a corner, but never mind. And this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And luckily it didn't go in, otherwise I would have been absolutely fuming. But today's question is, if you could have one thing removed or one thing added to FIFA 14, like from FIFA 13, what would you remove and what would you add? As Scott Parker scores a great goal. Since when does Scott Parker do that? But whatever. If I could remove one thing, it would probably be, if the game was laggy, this is kind of add/remove, I don't really know. If a game is laggy, you have the option to sort of quit, but I don't know, it's a difficult one to explain, because when you're playing in a game that's really laggy, but no one's backing out because obviously you don't want to lose or whatever, there should be an option where you're able to quit. You don't get a loss, you don't get a did not finish, you just back out due to lag, and you don't get any points whatsoever regardless of the score. So then you don't have to finish the match, because ultimately I hate playing in lag. It's awful. I cannot stand it. So I guess that would be a feature to add. As a feature to remove, I'm not really sure on one to remove. Yeah, don't know. I would, and one thing that I do want to see in FIFA 14 is handballs given, as this is the dumbest penalty I've ever seen. We had a pretty bad penalty in the last episode against Stoke, I think it was, and that was even worse. I don't understand. Whatever. I'd like to see improvements in the game engine as well, because they always make obstruction and handballs happen a lot, but are never given because it's not built into the game. And at half-time it was 4-0, and that's absolutely, that was complete garbage. Terrible first half. We had to, collect ourselves, and unfortunately within a few minutes they score that. Again, Federici, I don't know what he was doing, his positioning was all wrong. That should be a routine stop, and somehow it loops up and he desperately tries to claw it back. But that was a terrible piece of goalkeeping, unfortunately. Take it 5-0, we're losing 5-0. And so it's not been a good run of games. And I'm thinking that this, can Reading survive? It might be a little bit tougher than I expected. As Adebayor slots in their 6th, I think that is, with 10 minutes to go. I mean, this is probably the worst game of FIFA I've ever had. Defending was all over the place. We just have no pace in this team. There's absolutely no pace whatsoever. So even though the January transfer window is a long way off, we need to somehow get something and get enough points and get over, that 40-point mark, which supposedly you're always safe at 40 points. As Lafandra scores a pretty nice goal, but it's only a consolation, bit of a shame. We desperately need to get a result against West Brom in the next game. Otherwise 3 back-to-back losses. It's pretty diabolical, pretty bad. So there is the full-time result, 6-1 to Spurs. At home. That's awful. I genuinely thought I was going to get sacked, and then I was like, oh god, this is going to be terrible. But never mind. We go on into the next game against West Brom. And yeah. So also, guys, if you could hit that like button, I really would appreciate it. We got 60 likes in the first episode. We got, I think, over 40 in the second episode, so if we can get over 40 again in this episode, that would be absolutely fantastic. I would really appreciate it, really do appreciate the support and all the comments. So obviously straight into the game, they have a good chance with Dorans there, and then we have a sort of mediocre chance. It was a pretty even game, it has to be said, sort of end-to-end stuff with no real chances. The second half was really poor. There was, I think, 1 or 2 shots in the whole half. We have some sort of half chances early on with some good shots. Then unfortunately, this was some ultimate team defending right here, so, backing off, making sure he doesn't pass, and we just gave him the space, and he took it, and he shot, and he scores. Dorans puts them 1-0 up, and this is really, really bad, because against West Brom we should be looking to get 3 points, and we're in danger of getting 0 points out of the whole episode, so it definitely means next episode, next 3 games in the league, which will take us up to 8 games, we'll need to definitely get some points, as Solpingidis scores again just before half time, so we go into half time 2-0 down, which is really disappointing. And this, I don't know what it is about this Reading team, there's just not a lot of pace, the passing is dreadful, and we just can't seem to get any shots in either. It's just all round pretty bad, but that was probably the best chance of the second half. This just before half time actually, but obviously this chance was the best chance of the whole second half. It did fall to them, they didn't score, and the game did finish 2-0, but that just about wraps up the episode. So if you could click that like button if we get 40 likes, and also leave a comment with one thing you'd like to add or remove from FIFA 13 into 14.